Hey, what's up, guys? This is Los from the Big Retro Show, and I have been seeing on Twitter all day long that Elden Ring has been getting 10 out of 10 reviews. Now, when I hear that a video game has received a 10 out of 10 review, automatically I think that the game is overhyped. But this game, it looks good. I'm not gonna lie, it does look good. But a 10 out of 10? I just don't know. I do not know. And so for this video, I decided to react to IGN's Elden Ring review. I want to see what the hype is about, and I want to see if, I agree with what they're saying here. Like I said, man, it looks beautiful.
In the 87 hours that it took me to beat Elden Ring,
Okay, so this is Mitchell Saltzman, Jurassic Rabbit, and seems like he took over 80 hours to beat the game. Wow, he must have had it way, way in advance, which is, on par for the course for magazines like IGN, video game sites like IGN. So let's see what good old Mitchell has to say.
I was put through an absolute ringer of emotion. A fair amount of sorrow for the hundreds of thousands of lost EXP stolen by some of the toughest boss encounters From Software has ever conceived. A lot of anger, especially at these assholes. Oh, I hate these guys.
All right, so right away, I mean, we know that this game is a Souls-like open world adventure. Personally, I do not like Souls-like games. I think that video games should relax you and should entertain you. They in no way, shape, or form should give you stress or piss you off. And sure, they should provide a challenge, but not be hard enough for you to say, fuck this game, I am not playing it. And to me, all the Dark Souls games that I've played, I haven't connected with them. I'm not a fan of them. I think that they're clunky and that, they're slodgy. It's a slodge. And, I just think they're just too hard for their own good. Anyways, let's move on.
And exhilaration from finally getting through that battle that I had been stuck on for an hour. But more than anything else, I was in near constant awe
Beautiful
from the many
graphics.
absolutely jaw-dropping vistas, by the sheer scope of an absolutely enormous world, by the frequently harrowing enemies, and by the way in which Elden Ring nearly always found a way to reward my curiosity with either an interesting encounter, a valuable reward, or something even greater. From Software takes the ball that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild got rolling and runs with it,
like
creating
Witcher.
a fascinating and dense open world about freedom and exploration above all else, while also somehow managing to seamlessly weave a full-on Dark Souls game into the middle of it. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that Elden Ring ended up as one of the most unforgettable gaming experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, I don't know about the Dark Souls stuff though, guys.
Someone must extinguish thy flame.
To set the stage, all you know from the outset is that you play as a tarnished of no renown, blessed by grace, and are compelled to make the journey to the lands between and become an Elden Lord. What that actually means, how one might go about doing that, and what the deal is with that giant glowing golden tree are all things that you have to discover for yourself. Like other FromSoft games, the grand story is hard to fully digest on a first playthrough, but it's a story that I nonetheless enjoy trying to piece together for myself. It ended up being
Okay, so he's going out of his way to not spoil it, which I appreciate that. I do plan on playing this game, so thank you very much for that.
the organic side stories that kept me most enthralled rather than the grand overarching plot that credits Game of Thrones' George R.R. Martin as its scenario writer. FromSoft smartly doesn't change much in its approach to these from the Souls games, Bloodborne, or Sekiro. You'll just naturally meet characters.
Fun note, I did not like Bloodborne. I think that game is so overhyped, it's not even funny. And maybe I'm a little bit biased towards that kind of game because I just think they're just too damn hard. And yeah, I know what you guys are saying. Get good, noob. Yeah, and that's true. You know, I don't have millions of hours to get good at Bloodborne. But anyways,
As you explore and discover the world and become involved in their problems. There are no exclamation point markers on the map, no waypoints to guide you to them, And these characters don't always flag you down or initially want or need anything from you. They're just people with their own agendas and goals, whose stories are impacted based on your own actions or inactions.
Okay, to me, a game like this, especially one of this scope, is going to need some markers, or at least somewhere pointing you in the right direction. So that's kind of a red flag for me.
That was actually kind of refreshing in an open world as vast as this one. And it was always exciting to see a familiar face pop up again later, as I was eager to learn about what brought them to this new part of the world and how their journey had progressed. The trade-off, of course, is that without any markers, quest log, or journal, it becomes very easy to forget about certain plot threads and accidentally leave them unresolved by the end. That's a bummer, and I've already felt regret about missing out on stories that some of my colleagues have had, but for me it was worth it, because even after 87 hours, I never once felt the open world fatigue that usually sets in when my brain gets overloaded by a map absolutely full of unresolved side quest markers. Besides, any missed quests give me extra incentive to continue on to New Game Plus.
87 hours, guys. That's a long
Freedom
haul.
is the word that every aspect of Elden Ring's design connects back to. From the moment you set foot in Limgrave, the first of many interconnected regions of the lands between, you are
I just want to pause real quick. This world is beautiful. I will give it that. It is beautiful.
completely free to go wherever you want. And sure, that's far from a new concept in an open world game, but the way it's handled here is truly extraordinary. If you wanted to, you can be an explorer and spend hours upon hours in just Limgrave, delving into every mini dungeon, fighting every boss, discovering every NPC, and leveling yourself up to better prepare for
That's
what's
the same
next.
for any open world
Alternatively,
game, though.
you could follow the Light of Grace, guiding you toward the main path and the first major dungeon. Or you could find a hidden path to a new region that's meant for higher levels and completely bypass the first major dungeon entirely.
Okay, that's
Maybe
not
even steal
exactly
yourself a cool
breaking the
weapon
mold of
early while
open
you're
world
there.
games.
Again, this is not unprecedented, but a few things set Elden Ring apart from games like Skyrim that provide a similar openness. For one, Elden Ring doesn't scale enemy levels to your own at all, so jumping into a later region means you're always dealing with stronger enemies, making the risk-reward prospect of doing so very real. But perhaps more notably, the way its different areas are connected makes finding these new ones more than a simple matter of choosing a direction and heading towards it. Limgrave is designed very specifically with a main path in mind that takes you through Stormvale Castle, and finding a way around that feels like you've truly discovered a hidden
That's
passage
how you
or
summon a
alternate
horse?
route, which is a super cool feeling
He
not
just
present
appears out
in
of
most
nowhere?
open world games I've explored. You also have more freedom in how you approach combat than any previous FromSoft game, thanks to a bunch of familiar new systems that are used in interesting ways here. You can crouch walk and use stealth to avoid detection, or more easily sneak up for a backstab.
Again,
You
these
can
are
fight on
all
horseback,
concepts that
you can
are not
craft
new.
items on the fly, you can summon a huge variety of creatures to fight for you, and most substantially, you can equip Ashes of War to your weapons and completely change their affinity and skill. The most important element of Elden Ring's philosophy, though, is the freedom to just walk away and do something else when you hit a wall. Elden Ring is hard, which is to be expected from a FromSoft game, but its difficulty surprised me, even as a veteran of the Souls-like genre. I hit multiple points, even all the way up to the moment I reached the very last boss, where I had unlocked paths to several bosses and simply could not make headway on any of them. But even though I hit dead ends on those paths, there was always somewhere else I can go. A region I hadn't thoroughly explored, an NPC quest that I had set aside for later, a Light of Grace indicator that I had not yet followed. There was never a point in Elden Ring where I was at a complete loss of what to do, and every time I explored those other regions and followed those alternate paths, I would find new gear and items, level up my stats, or learn new spells or skills that would eventually give me the extra edge I needed to power through a boss that had given me
Man,
problems.
that looks sick.
It isn't just the promise of making my numbers go up that called me to turn over every stone on the map. The lands between is positively brimming with riches, intrigue, and danger at every turn. Much of what Elden Ring's open world does well can be traced directly back to things that made Breath of the Wild stand out from the many open world games that came before it. It's that same feeling of starting out in a world with little explicit guidance, finding something that piques your curiosity on your own, doing whatever it takes to get there, and then being rewarded for that curiosity. The big difference is that in Breath of the Wild, I could usually predict what's going to happen when I get to that orange glowy thing off in the distance.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is a
Puzzle,
Zelda game.
unearth a shrine, do another puzzle, and probably get a cool temporary weapon and spirit orb. That's not to take anything away from Breath of the Wild, it was awesome, but that pattern became somewhat routine by the end. In Elden Ring, by contrast, very rarely did my predictions ever come true. I'd head to a lake and all of a sudden get ambushed by a dragon. follow a river expecting to collect some minor crafting materials, only to find a dungeon filled with enemies and traps.
Okay, that's kind of cool because it shows to me like the game isn't repetitive. Like in games like especially, Breath of the Wild and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you go to a certain location in the map and you know what's there. You know that you have to arrange rocks, or that there's a treasure there, or something that you've been doing throughout the whole game is there. So there's no surprise like that. So I think that is a good aspect of Elden Ring.
Enter a cave and get jumped by little goblin men. Or take a seemingly unimposing elevator and find that it just keeps going down further and further and further until, well, you'll have to get there yourself to find out. Best of all, each of these little excursions rewards your curiosity with something worthwhile. That could be a new weapon, a new Ash of War, a valuable consumable, a new creature for you to summon, a new spell, or a new NPC to talk to. There are so many valuable rewards available that I never felt disappointed by my prize, regardless of the amount of effort it took. But the thing that's most impressive about Elden Ring is that in between all of this brilliant open world design, there are a handful of legacy dungeons that still deliver those wide linear levels that Souls fans have come to expect. These are gigantic castles, forts, manors, underground labyrinths, and more that are packed with secret areas, challenging bosses, and multiple paths that are linked by one-way shortcut doors. If they were all strung together without being tied to an open world, they could probably exist on their own as Dark Souls 4. Bottom line, Elden Ring's open world exploration is a new benchmark. It's constantly exciting, rewarding, and full of moments that made me go holy shit in a host of different ways.
Combat. Now this is a big deal.
As far as combat goes, Elden Ring is certainly closest to Dark Souls 3 when compared to other games in From Software's library of action RPGs, characterized by weighty attacks, careful stamina management, and a bit of a slower pace than games like Bloodborne and Sekiro. The two big new additions are the ability to use a guard counter by blocking an attack with your shield and then immediately pressing the strong attack button to follow up with a crushing strike that can leave weaker enemies in a crumpled state,
I don't like battles
and
where
the jump
it's
attack
like
that gives
molasses.
melee wielders a new type of heavy attack that can also be used to stun enemies and leave them open for a
That's
critical
just
hit.
a personal
They're both
preference.
great additions that offer melee classes fun new tools, but for the most part, From Software has certainly adopted a
But the
if it
weighty
ain't broke, don't
battles,
fix it approach.
I don't like those.
What really makes the combat
need
in
to be
Elden Ring
fast.
so good, though, is its enemy design and variety. Not only are a fair number of them horrifying, but some of these baddies are absolutely vicious, coming at you with wild swings and combos that seemingly go on forever and can hit from 10 feet away. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
And he's still going.
He hits you from 10 feet
Others
away.
are more methodical and hide behind their shields to wait for the right opportunity to either parry you or catch you while you're winding up. Others still are weak, but can be huge threats when they ambush you with a grab that kills you in one hit.
Damn,
Many are designed to punish those who just mash the dodge roll button without care, which makes Elden Ring a very hard game. But it's a good style of difficulty. One that's less about fast reaction speeds and twitch reflexes, though those certainly help, and more about learning, adapting, and finding the planted weaknesses in enemy attack patterns. Deciphering those tells and acting upon each moment of opportunity is a large part of why these games are so much fun. And then there are the bosses. I don't want to spoil them, but there are a handful that are some of the most visually and mechanically impressive From Software has ever crafted.
Nice. The verdict. All right, let's see what he says about the game.
It is no exaggeration to say that Elden Ring is From Software's largest and most ambitious game yet, and that ambition has more than paid off. Even after 87 hours of blood, sweat, and tears that included some of the most challenging fights I've ever fought, and innumerable surprises, there are still bosses that I left on the table, secrets that I've yet to uncover, side quests that I missed out on, tons of weapons, spells, and skills I've never used. And this is all on top of PvP and cooperative play that I've barely been able to scratch the surface of. Throughout it all, while the fundamentals of combat haven't changed much from what we've seen before, the enormous variety of viciously designed enemies and the brutal but surmountable bosses have brought its battles to a new level. Even with all the threads I didn't manage to tug on my first playthrough, of which I'm sure there will be several, what I was treated to can easily be held among the best open world games I've ever played. Like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild before it, Elden Ring is one that we'll be looking back to as a game that moved the genre forward.
A 10. A masterpiece, okay. Okay, so it's obvious that our reviewer here really enjoys this game. He gave it a 10 out of 10. And in my opinion, there's only been one game that I have played that's worthy of being called a perfect masterpiece. And that is, of course, Red Dead Redemption 2. I love that game, and anybody who's followed my channel for a while knows that I love that game. That game to me is perfect in every single way. Now, this reviewer mentioned some things that are a little bit concerning to me. The one, especially thing that's concerning is that the map gives you no markers, no navigation points, or anything like that. So, you know, in his review, he said that he missed some bosses that he could have fought, some places that he didn't explore, and some abilities and skills that he didn't find and develop in the game. I like knowing where I'm going in a map, and for it to be such a huge game and not give you any indication of where to go next. Oh, I just don't like that. I don't like that. The other thing that I noticed about his review is the combat. Now, again, I am not a Dark Souls fan. I didn't enjoy those games on the Xbox 360, and I don't think I've ever played one past the first Dark Souls. But I did play Bloodborne, and I didn't like it. But the combat in this game looks a little sluggish to me. And I don't know for sure, obviously, because I haven't played the game, but just based on what he said, that the combat is weighty, that the combat here is not going to appeal to me. For example, in the way that other games have, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Breath of the Wild or Red Dead Redemption 2. And I am an open world connoisseur. I love playing open world games because I like being immersed in this world. And so Elden Ring looks like a world that I want to play in. It looks like a world that is immersive and that I can lose myself in. The two things that concern me about this review, the no navigation points and the combat, aren't deal breakers for me. I still will be playing this game. Right now, I don't know if I'm going to agree with this being a 10 out of 10 game. And I won't be able to say what I give the game until I actually play it and put as many hours as Homie did, 80 plus hours into the game. And so it could very well be that this is a masterpiece. I just don't know yet. I have to play it. But I like what I see so far, despite those two issues that I noticed in the review, which was, again, the combat and the navigation system is non-existent, it seems. And so, yeah, I mean, let me know. Have you guys played this game? If you have, let me know in the comments. Did you like the game? Do you think that the game deserves a 10 out of 10? Is it overhyped? That is the question. Is this game overhyped? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. And until the next one, I will see you next time on The Big Retro Show. Peace!